Ayun, so magandang gabi po ulit sa ating lahat and purihin ang Panginoon po, and it's another Monday for us to gather, fellowship, and of course to dig deeper po sa salita ng Panginoon. This is my devotion that I would want to share po sa ating lahat. Maybe some of us, we already knew what this is, but I hope that as we go through these verses, God will speak to us sa mga puso natin. The focus of this will be on Hebrews 2, pero we will look at Hebrews 6 verse 2 and Hebrews 6 verse 5. So basahin ko po yung verse natin. Sabi dito sa 6 verses 1 to 5. Brothers and sisters, if someone is caught in a sin, you who live by the Spirit should restore that person gently. But watch yourselves, or you also may be tempted. Sa verse 2 sabi, carry each other's burden, and in this way, you will fulfill the law of Christ. If anyone thinks they are something when they are not, they deceive themselves. Each one should test their own actions, then they can take pride in themselves alone without comparing themselves to someone else. Sa verse 5 sabi, for each one should carry their own load. So bakit po kaya ito? Kasi kung titingnan po natin, parang some people may think that verse 2 contradicts verse 5. Kasi carry each other's burden, sabi dito. In that way, you will fulfill the law of Christ. But in verse 5, it says, for each one should carry their own load. So ano po ba talaga yung message sa akin na gusto kong i-share? Kasi even ako po siguro, when I was going through this, meron ding confusion sa akin. Pero ito siya. This verses tells us, or it explains to us that we are responsible to and we are responsible for. So ano po yung difference ng 2 and 4? If we look back to Galatians 2, sabi, carry each other's burden, and in this way, you will fulfill the law of Christ. So dito po, buksan ko lang yung notes ko. Dito po sa verse 2, it shows our responsibility to one another. Denying ourselves to do for others what they cannot do for themselves is showing the sacrificial love of Christ. This is what Christ did for us. This is being responsible to, or sa ibang tao. Many times, others have burdens that it is too big for them to bear. And they don't have enough strength, resources, knowledge to carry that load, and they need help. So similarly, Christ did what we could not do for ourselves. He saved us. So dyan po natin makikita being responsible to other people. While in verse 5, sabi dito, everyone has responsibilities that only he or she can carry. This is being responsible for. For what po? These are the things that we are responsible, particularly of our own load, that we have to take responsibility for and we have to work out. No one can do certain things for us. We have to take ownership sa certain aspects daw po ng life natin. That is what we call our own load. So to further distinguish this being responsible to and being responsible for, if we go back to the Greek word ng burden, it means excess burdens. So burden that are too heavy daw po, that this weighs us down. This may sometimes be yung mga crisis sa life natin, tragedy sa life natin. Such as an example po dito is dun sa church sa Antioch. The church at Antioch is an example of believers bearing one another's burden. In Acts 11:27 to 30, makikita po natin doon makikita po natin doon that it records that the church learned that there was a coming famine in Judea. Though they did not personally know the ones who would be affected by this difficulty, they took up collections to send them by way of traveling to the apostles. The Antioch church did not assume responsibility for the total provision, but their generosity lightened the load for those who would be suffering. Actually, nung binabasa ko po to, tapos nung ginagawa ko siya, ang pumapasok talaga dun sa isip ko is the Gulf Cares Ministry. Kasi we may not be totally responsible po dun sa mga burden ng mga kapatiran na natutulungan. But in some way, it lightens up their load. Kasi yung mga tinutulungan naman po ng Gulf Cares Ministry is hindi naman po yung kaya talaga nila na yes po kaya nila, oo, in certain point kaya nila to carry their own load. Pero there's deeper help that they needed from the church. Siguro to start, they're going through some tragedies ng buhay nila, or there's a crisis that is too big for them to bear, and that's where we enter as a church or as a ministry, or that's where we help them to carry that burden that is too heavy for them to carry. Parang sobra pong paulit-ulit na nare-remind ako dito about the Gulf Cares Ministry. And another example is the boulders daw po. When we try to carry yung mga boulders, they can crush us. So we are not expected to carry the boulders by ourselves. Kasi nga it will break us. So we need the help of others to carry itong mga boulders na to. And I think as a church, it is very important for us to realize that when someone is experiencing this or having this heavy burden, that's where we enter. That's how we extend our help. Pero on the other hand, we also need to understand the Greek word for load, which is in verse 5. It means cargo, or this is the burden of daily toil. This word describes the everyday things that we need to do. We are responsible to deal with our feelings. Each of us are responsible to deal with our attitudes, our behavior, as well as the responsibilities that God has given to each one of us, even though it takes effort. Meron naman po tayong kanya-kanyang responsibility na tayo ang kailangang gumawa at hindi natin kailangang ipakarga sa iba. Kasi we can do that on our own. Sometimes it really takes a lot of effort, pero kaya natin siyang gawin. For example is yung knapsack po. A knapsack is possible to carry, unlike the boulders. The boulders, we are not expected to carry them. Pero ang knapsack, we are expected to carry it on our own. At kaya naman natin buhatin, hindi na natin kailangan pang ipabuhat sa iba. So I think po here, para po we will not fall, ano po ba yung nagiging problema? Sometimes kasi the problem is when we act as if yung boulders, daily loads natin. Or yung daily loads naman are boulders na hindi natin kayang buhatin. Minsan napagpapalit po yun, or minsan meron pong hindi ko naman po nila lahat, or hindi naman po lahat. Pero meron ding iba na kaya naman po nila, pero may mga nasasanay, may mga tinatawag tayong ganun. So dapat hindi rin tayo maging enablers. Kailangang maging discerning din tayo sa pagbibigay ng help or sa pagtulong para hindi maging boulders yung daily load naman. So when this happens, the result is there is perpetual pain on both the giver and the receiver in the long run, or there is yung irresponsibility naman sa side ng receiver. So we don't want that to happen. So from these verses, ano po ba yung naging reflection ko? And this will be the end nito. Number one is that we are to thank God for seeing us through every challenge. These challenges in life, may it be a boulder, or may it be a knapsack, or a burden, or cargo, we have to acknowledge and know that God sees us through every challenging situation. Right now, maybe a lot of us are going through sinasabi natin yung heavy load. Sa akin, sa pagkakaalam ko po, sa atin ngayon, wala naman po sigurong na known po wala naman po sigurong nag-undergo ng heavy burden as of now. Pero kung meron man po, we thank God kasi God will see us through every challenge. May it be a burden or a cargo or a daily toil of our everyday living. We are to thank God for blessing us. Yun nga po, through every challenges, for giving us peace in all the circumstances. And of course, number 4, God requires faithfulness in meeting our responsibilities. Yung number 4 po, siguro yung pinaka gusto kong i-share to summarize this up. Kasi faithfulness that there are parang yun na yung nabanggit po natin kanina, there are things na kaya natin, there are things na hindi natin kaya. So may mga responsibility natin na kailangan natin tayong maging faithful. We have to exert effort. It is difficult, but going back to number 1, God will see us through in every challenge and will give us peace in all the circumstances of our lives. So ayun lang po. God bless po. Thank you po.